Going in three, two, one.
Hi, everyone. This is Gayle Carson, and you know that this show is about living regret free. Well, I have a woman who is the founder of Getting What You Want, a life and love coaching organization focused on teaching women to own their own feminine power and men to cherish women. That's pretty good. That is Susan Shepard, and she is on a mission to get people loved the way they want to be loved and has a very successful track record of helping people heal their wounded heart, reframe their perception of the opposite sex, and meet their perfect partner so they can find true intimacy, love, and long term commitment. She's an award winning, best selling Amazon author of How to Get What You Want from Your Man Anytime and Dating After 40. No more excuses. And what I think is wonderful is she's a registered nurse. She is a self awareness addict. She has worked directly with Michael Gerber from the E-Myth, who I'm sure many of you know about, been certified in NLP by Tony Robbins himself, and she's been a headhunter in the oil industry, a general contractor building custom homes, a movie producer, a business coach, an author and book publisher, and now a life coach specializing in love relationships. A truly Renaissance woman. Welcome, Susan, to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Wow, I can't even imagine all of that. I think that is a super fantastic background. You can be and do whatever it is you want. But this is such an interesting subject. I guess I would ask you first. I mean, this I think is a hoot. Why are women so mean to men?
Well, they're only mean to men after they're absolutely certain that the men love them. Um, Otherwise,
That
they
true?
hide their feelings.
Oh, I think that's a hysterical. So once you know you've got the man where you want him to be, that's when you can start being mean to him, huh?
Yeah, well, that's not what I teach them, but that's what people normally do.
Wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. So let's start off with what your basic relationship strategy is between men and women. I mean, I think I would be very interested in that.
Well, men and women are different, obviously. Men are very linear and direct, and they're results oriented, and that's how they operate. And they're not so much, they sort of take their relationships. They want them to be easy and simple and not stressful. So they don't expect a lot from their relationships. Whereas women, we are very circular and unpredictable and enjoy the journey more than the end results, and are really very interested in relationship. In fact, my perspective on it is that women really have the power in relationship all the time, and men allow them to have it because it's they're more they're more interested in having power in the rest of the world, whereas women want relationships to work. And actually, I think that gives women an advantage because relationship is the foundation of everything. So, if you really have the power in relationship, you really kind of have the ultimate power in the world.
So is there, but do the strategies in relationships change as your age changes? I mean, the relationship between 20-year-olds and 40-year-olds is different than between 60-year-olds or even 80-year-olds. In fact, I was talking to one of my other guests, and she was telling me about the fact that there is a woman who's 87 who just got a new philosophy in life and just started dating again. So, are there dynamics that are different as we mature and age?
Absolutely. We all have different priorities at different phases in our life. And whereas your priority might be sex in your 20s, and it may be work in your 30s, and teenagers in your 40s, and thinking about retirement in your 50s and 60s. It's like your life evolves, so your relationships evolve.
Well, you also say that it's attractive to be a bitch. I want to know more about that. What does that mean?
Well, women get accused of being bitches for lots of different reasons, and usually it's for asking for what they want. And most women don't ever really learn how to ask for what they want in a way that they can get it from anybody. And there's really a pretty simple formula to doing that. And it is that you acknowledge somebody first for what you want them to give you because you've seen them give it to somebody. And then you ask directly for what it is you want. And then you appreciate any movement in the direction that you want them to go. And if you use that little formula, you can pretty much ask anyone for anything and get it. So being a bitch has to do with really asking for what it is that you want. And unfortunately, historically, women who ask for what they want have been labeled with the B word.
Well, that's true. I mean, whenever you hear about a woman being strong about something, she's being very aggressive, whereas they would never say that about a man. They'd say he was very assertive. And of course, assertive is good and aggressive is not. So it's a combination about that. But then again, you know, you talk about the area of sex as well. And you say there are different things women fear about sex versus men. So where does that play into all of this?
Well, women have this fear that men will think they're too experienced, so they don't really want to um, showcase their sexual, experience, and so they they're pretty much dependent on you know just dealing with sex in a sort of naive way, which I don't really think serves them, because actually I think women like sex just as much as men do, maybe even more. It's just not socially acceptable for them to say so, so they don't say so. And
And you think that's true in all ages, Susan? You think that's true in all ages?
um, I think it's changing. I think the very young girls are very aggressive about sex now. I think in terms of being even middle school and high school, those girls are very direct and very aggressive about it now, and almost to their disadvantage. Whereas, and women in their later years, it's like, what's the difference? You can, if you want to be 80 and have sex, more power to you. you know?
Absolutely. So, and where do the men come in on this?
Well, the men's their fear about sex is always not being able to perform. They have tremendous anxiety about that because, they think the women, when a woman says to a man, I'd like to spend a weekend in bed with you, it terrifies them because they think they have to maintain an erection for an entire weekend, which is not the case at all. That's not what it means to spend a weekend in bed.
Well, it's interesting because I'm sure there are a lot of people who have difficulty talking about these things, especially, if you were raised in a situation where you didn't talk about these things. So let's start off with where and how a relationship starts. Um, where where does it begin?
Where it begins is when the woman gives the man permission to make a move.
Ah,
Literally.
okay. So I have to put out this aura, in other words.
An aura, a sign, just look at them and smile. It's almost enough. Honestly, my perspective on this is that women do the choosing and women do the ending of all relationships. I don't think men have very much to say about it. And men don't leave until they've been dismissed. And in order for a man, because they all fear rejection, I mean, in reality, everybody fears rejection. So if you think about it, men have to, they're supposed to ask the women out. Okay. So a man walking up to somebody that he's never met before, never seen before, and here's a beautiful woman, and they get intimidated by beautiful women because beautiful women get asked out all the time, and so they think they're going to get rejected. And it's up to the woman to give them some sort of a signal. And maybe it's just a body language, or maybe it's just a smile, maybe it's just a nod in their direction, maybe it's just eye contact. It doesn't matter, but you have to give them the permission to move forward. I tell my clients all the time, open your mouth and say something. Even if you say, isn't the sky blue in this elevator? It doesn't matter what you say, but opening your mouth and saying something gives them permission to talk to you.
You know, you are right. I know a lot of very attractive, successful women who say that they don't date because they don't really get asked. And I just find that so improbable because I think they're terrific. And maybe they are very intimidating to a guy, and a guy thinks, well, I don't stand a chance, so why should I even begin? So they go ahead and they give this hint, and then what if they want to end a relationship?
Well, my perspective on that is that you really need to dismiss the man, because if there's a man in your life and he's been assuming the position of a partner in some way or another, if you don't dismiss him, that space is occupied and there's no room for anybody else. So my perspective on it is that, and this is why I teach men the same thing. I teach men, have this tendency to just disappear. And when I work with men, I tell them, look, just be honest. I mean, you don't have to be rude about it, but you can just say, you're wonderful at this, and I really appreciate this about you, but we're not a good match, and I don't want to waste your time. And it's like I tell women and men, when you start a relationship, be honest about what you're looking for. If you're looking for a serious relationship leading to marriage, say so, because they're going to run away at the beginning. They're going to run away at the end.
Well, it's funny because most of the women, and this is really true, most of the women I know, in fact, all my life, the women I've known, have been like a one man woman. In other words, they've dated one person exclusively. And I've always been the kind that always dated everybody. I mean, up until the time I was dating up until 3 weeks before I got married, even though I had dated my husband for 3.5 years, but I never wanted to get married. And so I just was the kind that how could you just go with one guy? I mean, this to me was impossible until I was ready and said, okay, now I'm ready to get married. And in 3 weeks we were married. But I just, I wonder how come, and maybe you're a great person to ask this because it's always been curious to me, the couples who have dated for 7, 8 years or are living together and number one, never feel the need to get married. That's number one. And then number two, if they do get married, many of them get divorced quite soon.
Well, people don't get married until they want to, and um, and really, it's the woman who decides, and that's the bottom line. It's like if you accept a relationship the way it is, that's the way it's going to be. I I believe that men will produce according to the woman's appetite. And what I mean by appetite is their what a woman wants. Men will step up if it's the right man. And if it's not the right man, then that's going to show. And my belief about it is this, that men will produce results for the right woman, no matter what she's asking for. And I believe that women need to ask for more than the man thinks he knows how to produce. And if the man steps up and produces whatever it is that woman is asking for, then he's the right man.
Wow. So what do you think is the most difficult thing for women in relationships?
Telling the truth.
Oh, wow. So we don't always tell the truth?
No, I think honestly, what I think is difficult for both is being vulnerable and really being honest about what's going on. You know, your feelings and really being vulnerable and expressing the actual reality of what is going on for you at any given time. I think that that's really a challenge for everybody concerned.
That's interesting. I never would have thought of that. And what about for men? What's the most difficult thing for men in relationships?
Knowing what women want.
Knowing what women want. You know, at one time I was considering doing a program because I had been asked by wealthy women, wealthy, successful women, they could not find a guy who could keep up with them. Now, it didn't mean that he had to be powerful, or make millions of dollars or any of those things. They just didn't have anybody they felt were an equal to them. Have you had clients like that?
Well, sure. You know, the thing is, women go to doubt about their attractiveness. That is the first thing they go to doubt about. Men go to doubt about their ability to produce results and to be, successful in the world. But the thing about women going to doubt about their attractiveness is they need to have the self-esteem to actually know that they don't want to accept somebody who's less than what they're looking for.
So, but do they give off that feeling, or do they make the men feel inadequate, or is it just that they have these standards by themselves?
Well, you want to have standards. Everyone should have standards. And actually, from my perspective, I don't believe anybody should ever settle for less than exactly what it is they want. Now, there are some people who are so narcissistic that they're never going to find somebody that meets their standards. But for the most part, if you have standards, then you need to wait and keep looking until you find somebody that actually measures up to what it is you're looking for.
So when you work with people, do you work with the individual or do you work with couples?
I work with individuals. I quit working with couples years ago because, my reason for quitting working with couples was kind of funny. I started doing this work to decrease the divorce rate. And most of the couples that I work with, I made them tell the truth about what was going on in their relationship. And they never should have got married in the first place. So they all got divorced. So I said, I'm not doing this anymore.
You're not doing that anymore.
Uh,
So do you work primarily with women, or do you work with men as well, or who do
I
you
work
work
with
with?
I work with both. I have a couple of groups, different groups of people that I work with. Um, my clients tend to just show up. I mean, I have a lot of women clients between the age of 30 and 40 whose biological clock is ticking and they suddenly realize they've been working on a career and forgot to get married and want to have children. So then they come to me and they go, I want to get married next month. And I'm like, no, that's not going to happen, but you can get married within a year if you want to. And it really is working with them. And then I work with women, a lot of women over the age of 55. Um, Obviously, I'm over 55. Actually, it's my birthday's going to be Monday. I'm going to be 75. So women over the age of 55, up until 85 and 90, some of them, they just don't want to be alone. And so they're looking for a relationship. And then I have very few between the ages of 40 and 55. And I think mostly that's because most of them have teenagers and they're busy. They're just busy. They're working, and if they're single moms, they don't have time to think about having a relationship. And then I have a lot of men between the ages of 40 and 60 who want to get married, and even some of the younger ones in their mid 30s who are really just thinking about it. But a lot of men these days aren't even dating. They just kind of have withdrawn from the dating scene.
Wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. Well, first of all, I want to wish you a happy birthday. That's number
Thank
one.
you.
But I'm also curious. what the conversations are like. Don't, give real true things, but what are the conversations like between the 30 and 40-year-old and the 60-year up woman? How is it different?
Well, the difference is that the 60-year-old, 60-plus-year-old women have a smaller choice. I mean, they have fewer men to pick from, simply because men die sooner than women do. There's a lot of gay men, and a lot of men, if women are interested in having sex, a lot of men have problems with ED. And so their selection it's more limited. They have to work a little harder at finding somebody because there's just fewer to pick from. Whereas the 30 to 40-year-olds, they have a bigger choice. Although some of the cultures are really brutal to women over 30. They think, as far as they're concerned, women over 30 are spinsters, period, the end. And that's not true. I've worked with so many women in their 30s, in their mid-30s, and they end up getting exactly what it is that they want because I work with them. I use my love with class system, and they grow their self-esteem, and they get to that point where they realize they can have whoever they want. And so it's really a process. It's a growth process. They have to, heal their wounded heart, expand their perception of who's out there for them, and then, really go out there and look and spend the time to make a good selection about who it is that they want to spend the rest of their life with.
Wow. Well, I think we need to tell people how to get in touch with you. If you're listening out there and you are having a relationship problem because you can't find a relationship, maybe you need to talk to Susan. So where can they find you, Susan? And what's the best way to get in touch with you? And do you have any resources that you can offer the guests, or how do you tell us a little bit about kind of how you operate?
Well, I have a website. It's called gettingwhatyouwant.com, which is also the name of my company, Getting What You Want Incorporated. I have on there is a calendar that people can book an appointment to have a conversation with me. They just have to click on the button that says talk with Susan and then book some time with me. And I'm willing to have a conversation with anybody that wants to have a conversation. And that includes married couples. I mean, I will talk to them. I just don't work with them on a long-term basis. I will work with one person in a relationship, but I don't do marriage counseling anymore at all. But they can contact me that. I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm on Instagram and Twitter. I'm Susan Shepard, and there's other Susan Shepards out there that are authors, but my books are How to Get What You Want from Your Man Anytime. And if you go on my website, you can actually download my book, How to Get What You Want from Your Man Anytime. It's a free download on my website, gettingwhatyouwant.com. So,
and we should tell them it's Susan, and Sheppard is spelled Sheppard.
Exactly. And my email is susan@susanshepard.com. So if somebody wants to email me, they can email me as well. But I'm open to having a conversation with anybody about anything in terms of relationship or being stuck, because I can help them to move forward in their life in whatever way they want to go.
Well, I think it's important. I mean, no one wants to be lonely. People often ask me why I don't date. My husband passed away, gosh, it's almost 10 and a half years ago. And I've not dated because I just am so full with my life. I'm very happy with it, happy with the things that I do, happy with my pets. And, I don't know, I don't know where I'd fit a guy in at this point. But, I think there are a lot of lonely people out there, perhaps people who don't have as much going on in their lives as I do. And I think that if they worked with someone like you, Susan, or even read your books, on getting what you want, those things would certainly help them and give them a full and complete life, which is key. We have about 2 minutes left. What have I not asked you that you want to tell our listeners that I haven't gotten out of you yet?
Well, I have so many different resources for people, and I do have a home study program that's called Love with Class. And what I'd like to tell them is my 5-step process, and I can probably do it in about a minute.
Okay, go.
C stands for clarity, and that is what do you want in your life and what do you want in your relationships. L stands for love yourself, which is my unique process for getting people to heal their broken heart and grow their self-esteem and get to the point where they can choose who they want. A stands for learning how to ask for what you want in a direct way. S stands for success in terms of relationship. The 3 essential ingredients are chemistry, compatibility, and love with respect. If you are missing any of those, your relationship is doomed. But if you have them all, you have a foundation for a good relationship. And the last S in class stands for step up and step out, because if you've done this work in my first 4 steps, you're ready to go out in the world and choose somebody. And I've just had a tremendous track record of getting people into long-term relationships in the 28 years that I've been doing this work.
Fantastic. Well, folks, you heard it here. Her website is gettingwhatyouwant.com, and you can email her at susan@susanshepard.com or susan@gettingwhatyouwant.com. Thank you so much for being with us, Susan. This was really an interesting conversation.
Thank you, Gayle, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. I choose my guests carefully, so if you have someone you'd like me to interview, please drop me a line at gaylecarson13@gmail.com. In the meantime, check out my intro program, Mindset Matters, at www.sobmindset.com. See you next week.